Hello, my name is Robert Lyon. This is my credit funding magnum opus. This is from going deep down the rabbit hole of 0% interest funding and credit stacking and just learning everything there is to know about this. So you're about to get a brain dump of the full process from start to finish, everything you need to know, even if they don't have good credit, and how this all works. Now, this is going to be a longer video. Get some juice, get a pen and paper, watch this a couple times. And a lot of the little things that you're going to have to learn, I'm going to have separate videos for. Okay, but this is just like from a 1,000-foot view, everything you need to know to fix people's credit, set up business credit, go into buy trade lines, go into funding, and get the maximum amount of money from the banks in a very short period of time. Now, this is just what it is, right? I mean, if I could change it, I would, but this is the banking system is set up this way in a specific way. So we have to basically play by their rules, right? Even if we break a couple rules, to get the money so that we can play by our rules and do what we want. Okay? Super powerful, life-changing information here, though, so pay attention. All right. I call this my credit funding magnum opus. Right? This is everything I've ever learned in this credit stacking game. So when you want to review your credit profile, what you're looking for is the 5 factors of credit: payment history, amount of debt, length of credit history, amount of new credit, credit mix. So payment history is the biggest one, obviously, and you just need you need at least 2 years of payment history to basically get funding, to get approved for a bigger credit card. Right? If you have less than 2 years, you're screwed. If you get a late payment, you're screwed. You know, if you go to collections, you're screwed. You got to remove these things if you do. Okay, you're not screwed. You just have to remove them. You can't go into funding if you have bad late payment. If you have bad payment history, late payments are the absolute worst thing you can do for your credit. Almost even worse than a bankruptcy. Okay, the amount of debt. You want to be less than, honestly, like 15%, even 10% would be better. Less than 10% of utilization on your credit cards to go into funding. You want to be over 2 years. Now, we used to say 5 years, but we have banks now that if you're over 2 years with your credit history, you're good. If you're less than 2 years, though, you're going to have to wait, which is why when you do funding, it's very important. You really only have like one shot to get maximum funding, or else you're going to be screwed, right? So if somebody applies like a credit card, and then they're like, oh, well, you do the funding for me, and it reports their credit, and it screws up their age of their credit score, they already shot themselves in the foot as opposed to getting maximum funding. So it's very tricky. This is just the facts. All right, credit mix just means you have to have loans, credit cards, lines of credit, all the stuff that you really want. All right, and then a really good score is going to be between 740 and 850. Like, if you can get your credit score up to 740, man, the world opens to you. Really, we can go into funding between like a 680 and a 740. Totally okay. Anything less than that, not a chance in hell you're going to get anything. If you're fair or good, fair or poor, you're not going to get a loan. You're not going to be able to get approved for nothing. Maybe you can get some secured credit cards. That's about it. Maybe you can get some really garbage like 17% interest rate credit cards, right, to build some credit. Basically, we got to be at least above 670 is even too low. You got to be like 680 and above to even think about going into funding. You want to have at least 5 accounts, right? See how it says you have 7 accounts? You want to have at least 5 accounts before you go into funding. And that's just because the banks aren't going to give you a $20,000 credit card if you have no credit history. If you've never had a credit card, why would they trust you with their money? If you do, right? You're going to also look at collections. Collections are the easiest things that we can remove, honestly. I'll teach you guys how to do that. You really want to have less than like 3 inquiries if possible. Because if you have more than 2 inquiries, we're only going to be allowed to apply to 1 credit card before we have to call the bureaus or mail the letters and remove the inquiry. The less amount of inquiries, the better. If you have more than 3 inquiries, you're not going to be able to get funding. You're screwed. Like, we're going to have to remove those inquiries before we can start funding. Maybe you can get away with it, but for the most part, from what I've experienced, inquiries are a big deal. If you have a bankruptcy, you're also screwed. Bankruptcies are just like, they're there. You have to get them removed before you apply or try funding. Now, if you have a personal bankruptcy, you can get business funding, which is something you'll have to learn about. But so if everybody have to check all these boxes, how does anybody get maximum funding? Okay, well, they get it because of credit repair. My business partner did not want to learn credit repair. He just wanted to do funding. But then every single person I talk to, like I would say like 90% of America, doesn't qualify for funding. So we had to start doing credit repair. So the easiest thing about the thing is though that I learned is credit repair is relatively simple. Okay, you just have to do the work, right? You just have to know what to do, and you just have to do it, and you can remove anything off of people's credit. Because remember, credit bureaus are a for-profit company. They're a for-profit business, which means they're literally taking your data and snitching on you to the lenders and telling the lenders this guy is sketchy or this gal is perfect, right? She is great. She's not risky at all. Give her as much money as possible, or these people deserve nothing, and never give them any money because you'll just throw it away. And the sad part is it's probably kind of true, right? If you don't pay your bills, why would they lend you money? You know, it's kind of a harsh reality, but it is what it is. You deserve second chances, though. Like myself, when I was younger, I was in the Army, and I got married because I thought I was going to die in Afghanistan. And when I got out of the military, I had a wife and a stepdaughter and no money. We successfully destroyed my credit, right, when I was younger. Okay, I had to file bankruptcy. I had to do all this crap to get it back. But from that experience, I learned everything about credit repair. Okay, so factual disputing. Factual disputing is the correct way to do credit repair. It just flat out is. It is the correct way to do it. It's literally where you just go line by line on people's credit reports from all three bureaus, and you find discrepancies between the bureaus, and you find inaccuracies, and then you attack the inaccuracies. Because in America, if you have any inaccurate information on your credit profile, you legally must have it removed, or you can sue the credit bureaus for false information. And they don't like to get sued because you can actually sue them, and you can get $1,000 from the credit bureaus. I can show you the law right now if you want. You can get $1,000 from credit bureaus by having, if they have inaccurate information on your credit report. So factual disputing, I'll show you how to do the credit repair in a little bit. Factual disputing is basically just looking at the report, though, and finding inaccurate dates, inaccurate spellings, incorrect information, inconsistent information. Like if one bureau has one date and another bureau has another date, that's inaccurate. They both have to get removed. Okay, so that's factual disputing. And then once you ask them, once you find a factual anything, you can get it pretty much removed. The next step is just being like, hey, credit bureau, prove to me that this is my information. Prove to me that I owe this company I have this collection. Prove to me that I did a late. So you request proof, because again, if there's any inaccuracies on your credit report, it must be removed legally. Okay, so you're just telling them, hey, prove to me that this is mine. And then if they can, I would say honestly, like 50% of the time, they can't show that there's any proof anywhere. And then it gets taken off your credit report. The other 50% of the time, you're going to basically say, okay, so you have proof that this is my debt. How did you find this proof? Right? It's like if you went to court, this is what you do, like Judge Judy style or whatever. How did you find this proof? Oh, I found it by asking another credit company. Okay, and how did that credit company get my information? Because I never gave that credit company my information, and the way that you got it is not directly from me, so I think you're lying. And then they're going to have to remove it again. So that takes off another 50% of all of the stuff that goes on there. And then basically once you can't get anything else off from factual disputing or sending dispute letters or asking for proof or stall letters, then you can level up and go to the CFPB. The CFPB is like the government, though. This is going above and beyond the credit bureaus, and you're basically putting in a complaint that if they don't remove the inaccurate information, that the government will have to step in and screw up the bureaus on your behalf. So CFPB, you go straight to the government. You don't even do stuff with the credit repair bureaus anymore. You go to the government, and this works like gangbusters. This works like in 2 weeks. We can get so much stuff off people's credit, it's wild. And then if that doesn't work, you go to the FTC, which is it's basically identity theft. You're going and you're filing an identity theft. You're saying, look, I don't know who put this on my credit report, but it wasn't me, and I need it removed immediately. That's what the FTC is for. And this is how you can get anything off your credit. You can remove just about anything in about 2 weeks. It is a little bit of a gray hat area, right? You're literally saying identity theft when maybe you haven't been a victim of identity theft. We'll just kind of leave that out there for you to have a moral compass if you feel like it. And then you can also file with the BBB. This works specifically well with like collection companies or creditors. You basically complain to the BBB and you throw a big fit, and then you say, look, if you continue to leave this on my credit report, I'm going to destroy your reputation on the BBB. And then the BBB is going to piss them off, and then they'll say, look, I'll remove it off your credit if you take back what you said on the BBB. And we'll say, okay, cool. Because if a company gets removed or declassified from the BBB, that business isn't going to be able to do as much business. So typically that's like our the CFPB, FTC, and BBB. These are some big dog things. This is some big dog that nobody knows about that we do, and you can do it as well. Okay, so to remove collections, first thing you do is you do factual disputing. Next thing you ask is for proof. But what really works well for collections is the CFPB. The reason being, because the collections, or you don't legally owe a collection company. The collection company are the cockroaches of the finance industry. They buy your debt for pennies on the dollar, and if you give them anything more than like $100, they're making a profit. That's why they make tons of money off suckers that pay their collections. Don't pay your collections. But the way you remove collections, FTC, CFPB, or you can do factual disputing. But the CFPB works in like 2 weeks. Late payments. Late payments are harder to remove, and late payments are pretty much the worst thing you can do to your credit report. If you have more than 2 late payments on a credit card, I would recommend you just shut down the card and remove it from your credit report. Like, it sucks. I'm sorry. It is what it is. The other options that we have to remove late payments are you can call whoever you got the late payment with, and as long as it's been within 2 years, you can call and ask them for forgiveness. And I would say like 50% of the time, they will take it off your credit report and they'll be like, okay, don't do this again. It's a big deal when you can do that. The second thing is going to go back to just disputing the crap out of it and saying, okay, prove to me that I got this late payment. Okay, how did you come to the conclusion on that proof, right? So that's how you get the other 50%. And then the rest of the time, though, it's like really hard to get late payments. The best thing if you get a late payment is to call them immediately and say, please do not report this on my credit bureau, or please remove this from my credit report. I will never get another late payment. And it's called a goodwill letter. If you don't want to call, you send a goodwill letter. Bankruptcies. All right, so bankruptcies are a whole nother animal. I have a whole video section just on bankruptcies, and it's pretty wild that we can even remove bankruptcies, because imagine if everybody could just go do a bunch of dumb stuff and then file for bankruptcy and never have to pay anything back. The entire system would crumble, okay? So the fact that we can remove bankruptcies is crazy. So find your courthouse. That's the first thing you got to do. You have to figure out which courthouse did you get the bankruptcy at, because you need the courthouse number. Then you're going to create an account with Pacer, and what you're going to do is you're going to factually dispute the bankruptcies. That's what you do. You factually dispute them, and then you can do overkill, where you send it to the CFPB. Okay, so first you just factually dispute anything that's irrelevant, and every bankruptcy, guys and gals, every bankruptcy has inaccuracies on it. Okay, I don't care what you say. Every single one that I've ever seen or ever worked on, there's an inaccuracy that I can use to get the bankruptcy removed. And you're just factually disputing, because if the courthouse is not supposed to legally share your information with the bureaus. The bureaus must have accurate information on your credit report. So if the courthouse has the wrong date, the wrong name, the wrong accounts, the wrong information, you can get it factually removed by factually disputing. And when I say factually disputing, you're literally just going full Karen on these people, and you're typing a letter that just says, here is my bankruptcy, here is my credit report. This exact sentence is inaccurately spelled, and I demand that you remove it from my credit report immediately, or I will be suing you. Blah, 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 blah. So you go full Karen on them, and they'll remove it. And then once you find the information you've written your letter, I have letters on pre-written ones I'll send you, okay? But you can basically just attach it and send it to the CFPB, and then you just keep repeating this attack, and it can come off in as fast as 2 weeks. It's absolutely bonkers, totally insane. No one knows how to do this. I have a video. The only thing that sucks is Pacer.com is one of those like government websites that's just absolute trash. Closed accounts. A lot of people and a lot of funding companies don't do this, and it screws everybody over. Even if like it's no longer negative, or you paid off your collection or whatever it is, but you have closed accounts that had negative derogatory on there, you want to remove them, okay? And you're going to remove them by filing with the CFPB or attacking them with dispute letters. The CFPB is a lot faster though. But you want to get those closed accounts removed, because even if they say that they're not affecting your credit report, they're still going to affect you getting funding. Now, if it's a good account that closed, which I don't know why you would close a good account, but if it's like a car thing or like something where you made on-time payments and there's no negative stuff ever, you can leave it. But if there is any late payments or anything negative, you want to get it removed from your credit report. It's very important. Inquiries. All right, inquiries are the whole thing with funding, guys. Everything about funding comes down to inquiries and removing inquiries. An inquiry means you are inquiring about getting a line of credit or some funding. So I'll tell you right now, to remove inquiries from Experian, you just have to call them and say that you didn't apply for these and you need them removed immediately. We have a whole script and a whole training on that. For TransUnion, sometimes, 50% of the time, you can call them and do the same thing. The other 50%, you have to do the CFPB and the FTC to get them removed. For Equifax, the only way that we found to get them off is by filing with the FTC and the CFPB. Okay? But the fact that I just told you that, and the fact that you can do this, means that you can make a boatload of money. Okay? Because what happens is if you get more than like 3 inquiries, you will not get approved for any more new credit cards. This is the most important thing, so pay attention. So that means that as soon as we apply for a credit card and you get approved, I can call them, I can remove the inquiry, which means you will still get approved for the credit card, but you will not have an inquiry on your credit report. So that's how you do funding. You apply to a credit card, you get approved, you call and you remove the inquiry. While the credit card is getting shipped to you, before you activate the card, and before it reports next month on your credit report, you apply to every single bank there is in your funding rounds, and you remove the inquiries as you go. Again, Experian is the best. TransUnion is the next decent one. Equifax sucks. It just is what it is. So you really want to plan out your funding strategy before you start funding, and you want to find banks in whatever state you're located in that report to all 3 of these different bureaus, and you want to create a funding plan that hits on all these different measures. Student loans. If you have negative stuff on your student loans, it's pretty hard to remove them. Same thing for late payments. It's like if you get a late payment on your student loan, you just got to call the whoever issued the student loan and ask for a goodwill letter. Usually they're pretty good about it because student loans do not come off your credit unless you like pay them off. But here's the good news, here's the bad news. The good news is if you get a student loan with anything other than the government, you can get your student loan removed fairly easy, okay? Not fairly easy, but you'll have to file with the FTC and the CFPB, and you'll have to do the whole spiel. You can just keep attacking the student loans until they come off your credit report. The bad news is if you did your student loans with the government loan, you're kind of in a shitty situation because it's the government. Like they're the big dogs. You can't tell the government that the government did this to you when it's the government who gave you the loans and you signed all the paperwork and you didn't pay your bills, right? We're not in the business of not paying our bills. We're in the business of getting people a lot of money and building good relationships with the banks. But again, if you have a late payment with the student loans, the best thing you can do is essentially call the student loan department and ask for goodwill or favor, and they can either send you a letter or it will just be fixed on your credit automatically. If you did get a student loan with somebody other than the government, you can attack with the FTC, CFPB, and you can get them removed as well. Evictions, you basically are pretty easy to remove. You know, same thing though. If the government evicts you, then you're fucked. If a regular person, like a landlord or somebody, evicts you and they put it on your credit report, you can attack it and remove them very easily. It's no big deal. Same thing with repos, but if you got your car repoed, you just have to attack that repo multiple times with the FTC and the CFPB and factual disputing, and you can get them off. Usually takes about 2 months. Foreclosures, these are tough. Again, same thing though. If you get a mortgage and it has any sort of like veteran loan, if you have anything attached from the government, you are screwed. But if you get with some smaller bank that gives you one of these loans and then you foreclose, you can get it removed fairly easy. Same exact thing. Factual disputing, CFPB, FTC, boom, boom, boom. Just hit it. Usually takes 2 to 3 months. Why did I say all that? Because you need a clean credit profile to go into funding. You cannot get funding. There is no magic, mystical money fairy that will give you a loan or a credit card if your credit is screwed up, other than business funding. Business funding is a magical, mythical creature that I'll teach you how to do in a second. But for most funding, if you want to get maximum funding, you really need to clean your credit. That's why I just talked you that. I told you to remove anything off your credit. And there's more videos. I just need you to understand you have to have a clean credit profile. Sending dispute letters. I'll show you how we send dispute letters. We use a software called Dispute Panda. There should be a link down below if you want to use one of these. And what Dispute Panda does is it writes letters for you using AI, and it's basically just factually disputing an item on someone's credit report. Okay. Tax. All right. And it writes it like a handwritten letter. And it says, to whom it may concern, according to the FCRA, you drop your law. I need this data removed, or else I'm going to sue you. It is inaccurate. I don't believe you have the correct information. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can just go to ChatGPT, write me a dispute letter. And obviously you would have to tell them the name and the collection type or whatever else. But ChatGPT will write you the entire dispute letter, or you just fill in the blanks. Super simple. It's just literally just saying you are wrong. Remove this off my credit or I'm going to sue you. Okay. Again, I really like Dispute Panda. They write it all for you. They send it for you. And we've just mastered Dispute Panda. It's pretty cool. CFPB. You're going to go to CFPB.com. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's what it was. And then this is the government. You're going to come over here. You're going to submit a complaint. And then you're going to make an account. Submit my complaint. And you're going to complain about the creditors. And you're going to fill all this out. And then you're going to click the buttons correctly. And you're going to send them disputing. And you're going to do... When you want to clean a credit profile, you want to do every single thing in the same FTC account and the same CFPB and the same letter. Okay, you want to do all at once. You want to just sweep the entire account, and if you're lucky, it'll be all removed within like 2 weeks. Okay, the FTC is the next one. Now so the FTC is what you do if you're filing for identity theft. All right, but the truth is like some stuff they just won't remove off your credit report unless you file for identity theft. Right, so it's identitytheft.gov. You come to this little janky looking website, you create an account, and you file identity theft against the things. Again, this is not financial advice. This is just if you want to get stuff removed off your credit report, this is something you can do. Because you will not get funding if you have a jacked up credit report. But you're an adult, you can make your own choices. And again, the credit bureaus are stopping you from buying a house, buying a car, getting credit cards, getting loans, expanding your business based on a made-up number and data that they're snitching on you about. Okay? Nothing is real. Calling the bureaus. Okay, we have a whole video on how to call the bureaus. The ones that you can call and get a hold of the best are going to be Experian and TransUnion. Equifax almost never answers, but if they do, you can try. Right? You can try and remove the inquiries, but honestly, Equifax are just rude. Okay? But whenever you call Experian or TransUnion, if you get someone in the Philippines, you're solid. If you get someone in the U.S., it just depends on the person. And the biggest thing about calling the bureaus is if you get someone on the phone who's not cooperating or making it difficult or asking weird questions, just hang up, call again, and talk to somebody else that works there, because these are massive billion-dollar companies. They don't give a crap about you. They don't give a crap about what you're doing. Some people are just having a bad day. So you just hang up on people, call them back, and you'll get somebody who can take care of business. That's what you want. You want to find the person who can take care of business and get things done. We don't have time to wait. We want them to do it now while you're on the phone. Understanding debt and credit utilization. Okay, so if you have above, again, 15% credit utilization, you're not going to get approved for credit cards. The reason is the banks are risk mitigators. Their job is to have as little risk as possible, but lend out as much money as possible. They want to lend as much money as possible with interest so that their investors, their corporations, their businesses can all make a profit on the money, right? So they want to lend it out. They want to do it. They just don't want to risk it. So if you have credit cards that are all maxed out, why would they give you another credit card? You are very risky. They only want to give money to people that don't look like they need money. Okay, the way that we offset debt and high utilization is by buying trade lines. Okay, so you have option A. You can pay down all your credit cards. Okay, but some people have hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, or even $50,000, $20,000. It's a lot of money that they don't have. So instead of option A, which is pay down your debt, you can also go with option B, which is to buy trade lines, which is just becoming an authorized user on somebody else's credit card who has really good credit and no utilization. And what this does is, instead of option A, where you pay your debt down, you pay down the debt. Option B, we add available credit to your utilization. Okay, and there's an equation that I'll show you guys later on how to do this. But you need to have your credit utilization as low as humanly possible. Ideally, around 3% is serious, but less than 10% is best. Less than 15% is okay. Anything above that, you're pushing it. You're living on the edge and probably not going to get approved for as much as you could. Okay, personal trade lines and waiting for trade lines to hit. Okay, all the trade lines that I get, they're around like $1,000 to $1,500, and typically people need anywhere from 3 to 5 trade lines. And what these do, though, is they boost your score like 100 points. It's like a credit booster on steroids. And this is just personal trade lines. We'll talk about business trade lines in a minute. Okay, but the whole goal is, first you sweep people's credit, remove all their inquiries, remove all their negative accounts, and now we need to boost their credit score. The higher your credit score, the more money you're going to get. Again, if we can get you into that 740 range, the whole world will open up for you. But it's tough to get there, okay? If we can get you above 700, we can do funding, right? If we can get you to 740 and above, man, you're going to make a lot of money when you go into funding, okay? And we want to make a lot of money, right? We want to get people a lot of money. We want to get life-changing capital in a very short period of time, which is why you should buy trade lines. They're typically around $1,000 to $15,000. You can buy them through me. I'll put a link to buy trade lines down below this video, or you can use my coupon code at some of these other things. It's LION10. You get 10% off. But regardless, you're going to need anywhere from 3 trade lines minimum to 5 trade lines, okay? You can buy more than that, too, to offset your debt if you want to give it a shot, but then you're kind of pushing it. Once you buy the trade lines, now you have to wait for the trade lines to hit. And I'm going to tell you, worst case scenario, because it happens more often than I like, is people will spend a lot of money to buy all the trade lines, and then they will get a freaking late payment while we're waiting for the trade lines to hit. Now, the trade lines will report on the next time that the credit bureaus update. But typically, the credit bureaus update like every 2 weeks to 30 days, okay? So if you buy the trade lines, you have to wait for the trade lines to report. And again, a trade line just means a new account reporting on your credit report. So you buy the trade lines, you wait for them to report. They all have to report on all 3 bureaus, all 3 of them. Now you can go into funding. Okay, but when you're in that stall period, here, let me, you don't have to believe me, but when you buy the trade lines, or if you're buying them for a client, there's going to be this small window of like 2 to 4 weeks where the client is going to self-sabotage for whatever reason. My theory is they're about to get a ton of money and they start freaking out and self-sabotaging, and that's when they get late payments, or that's when they screw themselves over, or they mess something up, or their pipes burst, or their car breaks, or I don't know why it happens. It just happens so often that I have to mention it. So when you buy the trade lines and you're about to go into funding, just prepare for shenanigans. Now we're going to talk about business. So that was for personal funding. Okay, now if you want to just go into funding for clients without setting up a business, that's fine. You can just do a sole proprietorship, right? And you don't have to file for any of this stuff. But if you want to get maximum funding, you want to have your personal credit set up, you want to buy the trade lines, and you need to have a business all professionally set up to go into funding. This is how you get a ridiculous amount of money from the banks. It's super powerful. So this is to set up your business foundation. So in order to get business funding, you have to have a legit business, and this is what's called a bank-facing business, okay? It doesn't matter if the whole thing is fake. It still is going to be looked at by the banks, so we want it to look like a legit business because this is a forward-facing company that you're going to build to get money. You're building a business that looks good on paper, that looks good when they look at it, to get money. That's what it is. Okay, so in order to do that, we have to check these boxes. We need to have a good name for the business. You don't want your business name to have anything. You don't want it to have the word real estate. You don't want it to have the word crypto. You don't want it to have the word gambling. You don't want it to have anything that's kind of high risk. Trucking is high risk now. So you do not want to be anything very specific in the name. Okay, the banks will look at that and they will immediately shut it down just based on the name. And it's dumb, but that's just the way she goes. Okay. Next, you have to have an LLC or you have to have a corporation. It doesn't matter in one of those, C Corp, S Corp, LLC, whatever. You have to have a limited liability corporation because that's what you're going to do to get your EIN number, which is your other tax money, right? The government doesn't care if you're going to get funding for something else. They just want to get their cut, right? The government likes to take your money, pay taxes or whatever, throw it in a hole somewhere. But you need to get an EIN number because the whole goal with business credit that I'm going to teach you is if you establish the business's credit correctly, you can get business credit, which will never be affected by your personal credit, which means you can buy houses, cars, have other businesses, have Roth IRAs, have stocks in your personal account. And if God forbid, you go dark on all your bills and you can't pay any of your credit cards or your business fails or something happens, they will only be able to come after the business because the business is its own separate foundation and its own financial entity. Okay. Now, if you want to know the reality of it, if they ever came to sue your LLC and you only had one person that owns the LLC, they're going to come after you. But long story short, if you get a ton of money, the bill collectors will typically only be able to go after the business and your personal assets will be safe. And even better than that is when you get business credit cards, if you max the business credit cards out or you liquidate it, which is just a fancy word for turn the credit cards into cash, your personal credit score will not get hit because your utilization will not go up. Your business credit utilization will not affect your personal credit or your personal credit utilization. Okay, and I learned this the hard way. Whenever I tried to buy a house, I would max out all my personal credit cards, and then I would use that money to go on as like a down payment for a property. And then as soon as I max all my credit cards out, my personal credit would tank because I just used all my credit. And then I would be sitting at the closing table, and the mortgage company would do one final pull on my credit, and they would deny me, right? So I figured out, okay, I have to really get serious about business credit because then I can get a ton of business credit. I can liquidate all of that, and then I can basically use the cash from those credit cards as my down payment to buy a house and put it on my personal credit. And of course, then you have to pay the credit cards back and stuff. Again, we're not in the business of not paying our debts. We're in the business of getting access to money and building relationships with the banks. Okay? So anyways, you need a good name, you need an LLC, you need a real business address. I have other videos on this, but the reason you want this business address is because you want to look like a real business. You want it to have a physical location. Banks don't like post office PO boxes. They don't like necessarily anything else. Now, if you're just starting out and you don't have the money to go and buy a virtual office, and again, get a virtual office, it's okay to use your house. It's just I would try and have them separate because when you go to apply for a business credit card or you go to apply for a business loan, they're going to ask you for your personal address and they're going to ask you for your business address. And if they are the same address, some will deny you on the spot just for that. Okay? Kind of weird. It is what it is. You got to get a real address. The next thing is you got to get a business phone number. Now, I've used my personal phone number multiple times and it's been okay. But again, it's the same thing. The reason we need these things is because if you ever go and look at a business credit card application, right, they're going to ask you for all this information. And when you put it into their system, you're either going to get the credit card or you're not going to get the credit card. It's that simple, right? So I'd rather you get the credit card. So if you want to get the credit card, you got to do this stuff correctly. So you need a business phone number, a business email. You need a website. And now I know for a fact that Fundbox looks at does the business have a social media presence? Because if they don't have a social media presence, they're not a legit business to Fundbox, which is kind of weird. But, you know, I was at a conference and I was talking with them and that's what they told me. So that's some insider knowledge. So just have a Facebook page, right? Have a Google My Business. Make it look like a legit company. That's what I'm trying to get at. Next, you're going to need a Dun & Bradstreet number. Okay, so there's 3 ways to check. There's 3 steps to credit funding. Step number 1, set up your business correctly, like I just talked about. Step number 2, apply to as many business trade lines as possible. Step number 3 is to monitor your business credit, and one of the monitoring places is Dun & Bradstreet. Okay, so you have to get a Dun & Bradstreet number to seem legit, and also some credit cards and loans, business loans, won't even approve you if you don't have a Dun & Bradstreet number, so it's mandatory. But the 3 places that you can track your business credit score is going to be Experian, Equifax, and Dun & Bradstreet. Okay, those are the big 3. So you have to monitor your business credit while you're applying for business credit trade lines. All right, so that's how you monitor your business credit, and it's very simple. The other one that you can monitor is NAV. I can show you my NAV if you want, but NAV is I think you can use a free account, and then if you pay for the Prime account, it'll actually add to your business credit profile. So the way that business credit works is it's way easier than personal credit. At the simplest reality of business credit is the more lines of credit that your business has reporting on your credit report, the more money you're going to be able to get. Okay? Here's the logic I think behind it is like if you go to Walmart, 90% of all the inventory in Walmart is on business credit, is bought on business credit, and then they sell it and they make their little margin of profit or whatever, right? So it's not like there's some guy, some Walmart, nephew who's responsible for all of the debt. No, Walmart as a business is responsible for all of that debt, right? It has its own entity, its own EIN number, its own everything, right? And the reason that you build up your business credit, though, is the more lines of credit that you have reporting, the more legit your business looks, okay? Now, I have a list that you can go through, and it goes like this. So tier 1 is like really just like you're buying complete crap from like Grainger.com and FCC, and you have to buy like $100 worth of stuff to get a business credit reporting. They're called net 30s, which means once you buy it, you have 30 days to pay it back. So you have 30 days of credit, and the goal is to buy the thing, pay the credit, and then have the credit report to your credit profile. And you're just going to turn and burn these first like lines of credit. They don't matter. You just need them to report. So you need 6 for tier 1. And then tier 2, you need to get to 12 of these accounts. Okay, tier 2 is going to be like gas cards and like Home Depot cards and stuff like that. And then finally, once you get to tier 3, now you can start to get some actual money. And then once you have more than like 15, you can start to get cars for your business. You can start to get lines of credit for your business. You can start to get really big loans for your business without them even looking at the personal credit. But you have to have above 15 lines of credit on the business reporting to get to that final tier. And you have to get above 12 lines of credit reporting in order to go and get money. Like fat Amex, Chase, unlimited credit cards. And again, I have a sheet, and it's going to take you a whole weekend. But the cool thing about business credit is they don't have inquiries. Okay, so you can do every single one in a whole weekend. You could apply to all of them. And then you just have to wait 30 days or 60 days for them to report. So that's how you can do it really fast. And I'm getting better at that too. So, okay, once your personal credit is set up, your business is super savvy, and you're so ready to go, I want you to open up some strategic bank accounts, okay? You don't have to have a lot of money in these accounts. I would recommend at least $250 in each account. And then in a perfect world, you would have like $5,000. And what you would do is you would put $5,000 in SoFi. As soon as the bank statement reports, you would take the money out, and you'd put it in Ameritrade. Once it reports, you take the money out, and you just move the money around. Okay, that way it looks like you're doing a bunch of different transactions with all these different banks, but we can talk about that later. But these banks specifically, these are relationship banks that will give you credit cards and stuff, but only if you have a relationship or you have a bank account with those banks, okay? TD Ameritrade, you cannot get a TD Ameritrade credit card unless you have an account with them. SoFi, you want to have a relationship with SoFi. SoFi is one of the most like up and coming awesome banks that I really like. You can get freaking huge loans with them and amazing 0% interest credit cards with SoFi. Open up an account. Navy Federal, super good bank to be with. You do have to be in the military or know someone in the military or ask me, and I can get you access. But Navy Federal Credit Union is a great bank to bank with, and they have super amazing credit cards. So that's why we like them. PayPal, everybody knows PayPal. PayPal gives out good credit cards. Discover, it's good to have a relationship with Discover. So if you already have like a small Discover card, like a lot of people do, then you're good. But if you don't, then I would recommend opening up a bank account with Discover. Key Bank is a kind of a credit union. They're not in every state, but they give really big credit cards to people that have a relationship. Chime is a brand new online bank that you can get a credit card with, and then PNC is another smaller bank, but actually they're pretty big. But if you have a relationship with them, you'll be able to get like a $20,000 credit card. So each, just basically to put in perspective, if you open up a bank account with all of these companies, I know it seems like a lot. When you go into funding, you're going to get an extra 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, right? Like an extra $200,000 if you have money in the accounts and you build a relationship with them for a little bit, right? That's the whole point. And what's cool though is you can actually do your first round of funding, and then you can actually try and sneak in another round of funding sooner than normal. But it would basically be a relationship-based round of funding where you've already built relationships with these banks. You need 3 months of bank statements for the bank to be kind of comfortable with you. All right, that's typically what it takes. Now, if you're just trying to do blitz funding, which I get, like do it really fast, just open up an account and then you can apply to the credit cards. Like it doesn't matter that much. I'm just giving you the sauce on how you can get more and more money. Now you're finally ready for funding. Your first credit, your personal credit is pristine. You've bought your trade lines. The trade lines have hit. Your business is set up correctly. You have the foundation. You look legit. You've got all your tiers of business trade lines reporting to all 3 bureaus. You've opened up strategic bank accounts where the relationship with these banks is going to allow you to get better credit with them. Now you go for the big money. All right. This is how you can get like $500,000 in funding in like 2 to 4 weeks. This is wild. All right. This is crazy. Now, before you go into funding again, you have to have the higher your credit score, the more money you're going to get. You have to have no negative accounts. Credit repair is so important, which is why you have to have no negative accounts, as little inquiries as possible. Ideally, less than 3 per bureau, or even less than 2 per bureau would be better. A below 10% utilization, at least 2 years of credit history, and you have to have 5 primary accounts. A primary account can be a credit card or a loan, but you need at least 5 of them. And the logic is like, again, if you've never had credit cards, why would this bank give you a bunch of credit cards? So this is to stack it up, and this is pristine. This is for the holy grail, maximum funding clients, the unicorns that get all the money. So you want to make sure now that you check all the boxes, you basically want to apply first to all the pre-approval credit cards. Okay. And the reason we like to do this is like sometimes, guys, you can do everything right, and then you go and you apply for a credit card and you still get denied. And I'm sorry, I personally usually call the banks when this happens, and I do the reconsideration hotline and I try and figure out why. And typically it's because sometime in the past that client screwed up with that bank. Okay, that client tried to do something, or like when they were 19 or something, they screwed it up an account with them, and it's just like in their system, and for whatever reason they get denied. But we still like to do, like when they're ready for funding, we still want to apply to all the pre-approval credit cards. Okay. All right. This is exciting. This is when we finally get to the funding. Funding is kind of boring, but when you get approved, it's like, this is awesome. It's literally just applying for stuff. Okay. But really all the money is made before you start the funding process and making your funding plan. Okay. So everybody's file is going to be different. And if you really want to get nerdy with it, so there's your personal credit, and the 3 bureaus are Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and then there's your business, which has Dun & Bradstreet, Experian, and Equifax. Now, if you made a real master funding plan, right, or if you really wanted to get 0% interest credit cards, you would optimize each bureau based on which profile is the strongest per bureau and the state that they're in. And you would make a plan before you go into funding. So you would say, okay, all of these banks report to this credit bureau in this state, and this file has only only has 1 inquiry, which means I can probably get 3 credit cards before that bureau starts to not approve me for credit cards anymore. Okay, and then when you apply, sometimes the inquiry won't report for a little while based on the bank and stuff like that. So you'll find your way. But again, all the money is really made in the pre-funding plan. Okay, so first, before you start funding, you want to make a strategy and who you're going to go after. The other thing is sometimes you have relationships with banks that are already built up, which would increase your probability of getting approved. Okay, something to think about. And the way that we fund, though, is first we start with big commercial banks, then we go to online banks, then we go to local credit unions, then we do business funding, then we can go and get loans, then we can get business lines of credit, and if they own a home, you can get a HELOC, and you can also get a car loan, right? So that's like the totem pole of best stuff to worse. And the reason we do credit cards is because we'll get you the most money and the fastest with credit cards, and then we do loans last because loans are really just based on your income or your assets, okay? Okay, but whenever you're doing the funding, so I'm going to take one step back and just show you how to create a funding plan. So the website that you're going to want to look at for when you're making a funding plan is called Credit Boards. I mean, also inside of our master funding sequence that you get access inside of this program, please don't share this with anybody. It should tell you which bureaus they report to as well. So just so you know, no code reports, and like it's going to be all based on what state you're in and stuff like that, and how you do this whole thing. Okay, but the way that you build a real funding plan is you go to this website called creditboards.com. It's super old, glitchy, but let's say, you know, like for myself, I'm actually about to do some funding. So I want to look at banks that are in Arizona that report to Equifax, and I want to see what they get, which ones get approved for. But then now I can literally see, okay, if I go to, okay, so if I were to apply for a credit card with Justice Federal Credit Union, I've never heard of them before, but the inquiry would report to Equifax, okay? But I mean, look at this. This guy got, you know, 54 grand. Oh, it's a car loan. So he got a car loan. He had a 709 credit score, okay? So you can come to this website, though, and you can look at, okay, so this person let's find another one. So SECU. So I've never heard of this credit union, but the person had a 709 credit score, and they got $10,000, right? So that's pretty good. And then there's PenFed. Okay, the PenFed is one that we almost always go for because look at that, 712 credit score. Well, that's a car loan, but they gave out the bag on that one, right? So PenFed definitely gave out a lot of money on this. PenFed is going to be put into my Equifax funding plan for when I apply for banks. Now, PenFed is one of those banks that I want to build a relationship with. Oh, Discover. So now I know Discover is approved. I mean, this guy only got $1,500. DCU is another good one. So I would basically use this. I would go whatever state the business or the person lives in. You don't want to lie because then you would get denied for everything. And then I would build out a funding strategy of at least, 3 to 4 cards for each bureau, right? Experian is different because with Experian, it's very easy to remove the inquiries. TransUnion as well, but for Equifax specifically, you really want to pick and choose the cards that you use very, very correctly, right? Very wisely, right? And then you might be like, Robert, there's so many banks. Which ones do I apply for? Okay, if you really want to start to get nerdy and understand the benefits and the rewards and the best cards out there, you go to this thing called U.S. Credit Card Guide. So you got business credit cards. That's what I come here for, is just to check out all the business credit cards that I can get and the ones they recommend and how to do it. All right, so there's just business credit cards in here that I've never thought of and never went after. But you see that there's a limited amount. So you really, really want to build your business like super sexy and just get all these, every single one of them. It'd be so cool. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying, right? That's the goal. And then you can also look at, which ones have the best points. These are like the main bureaus. If you're really trying to figure out, okay, like, have I already applied to one of these banks? These are the main ones. There's these credit card companies: Amex, Barclay, Bank of America, Capital One, Chase, Citibank, Discover. These are the main ones. And then there's like weird little online banks that nobody knows about that I'll show you. And then there's like your local credit unions. So anyways, this is how you would build out the business funding. And then when you start funding, you're going to apply to the pre-approval links first. Now, you don't have to do a bunch of these, but like for American Express, I recommend you do the pre-approvals because you want to see, again, if everything on the credit looks solid, you should be able to just go right into funding and not worry about it. But if you're trying to be smart, or if you're doing it for yourself, apply to a couple of these pre-approvals and see if you get pre-approved. Because if you get pre-approved, then there's a pretty good chance that you're going to really make a lot of money when you go into funding. Now, let's say you do some pre-approvals and they deny you. Okay, well, then you're not going to get an inquiry. It's not going to hurt your credit. and you're going to have to go back and maybe do a little more credit repair, or buy a few more trade lines, or figure out why you're not getting approved, okay? But then you make your master funding list. This is ours. This is, you get access to this inside of the program. Please don't share this to anybody. But this is how it goes, okay? So you apply to Citibank first. Citibank just seems to be the most picky, so they really like to have you apply first, okay? So first you apply to Citibank. You get those Citibank has great credit cards, by the way, too, really good ones. Then you're going to apply to Amex. Now the thing with Amex is once you get approved for one personal credit card, then you can go and apply for 4 more credit cards at the same time and only get 1 inquiry. Super powerful. So you apply to Citibank, you apply to all the Amex credit cards, and you get approved. Next, you're going to stop. You're going to call Experian. You're going to remove the inquiries. Boom, boom, boom. Usually they'll be off within 24 hours. Now you're going to go to round 2. Now you just got the first round of funding, first event of funding. You've gotten 6 credit cards. You've removed 1 inquiry. You've removed the inquiries so that the banks don't know that you just got those 6 credit cards. Now you're going to go to Discover. Then you're going to apply to Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo and Bilt are pretty much the same. They're kind of crap. I get denied by Wells Fargo all the time for absolutely no reason, so whatever. But we like to do them in the second round. Then you remove the inquiries again. Now you go to Fidelity. Now Fidelity is and Chase. Really, you want to have a bank account with these banks. Fidelity, you have to have one in order to apply for the credit card. And Chase really is becoming more and more a relationship-based bank. So they're getting away from the regular credit stuff, and they're building their own internal credit system. Okay, so if you want to have a good relationship with Chase, you need to have a Chase bank account. Then you remove the inquiries. Now you're going to get into more of the bigger banks again. Bank of America, and then you're going to go to SoFi. Now you can also go to the SoFi loan at this point. And we typically do the loan here just because SoFi gives out the bag. We're talking 75 grand, 50 grand we've gotten people, 100 grand sometimes. And it's let's get that money while we're doing the funding. Now, this is not 0%. This is a loan. But that's a big old loan that they're giving out right now. So really, I like doing that. Plus, if you're funding somebody and you tell them, hey, I just got you a $50,000 loan, they're going to be like, what? They're going to be super oh, my God, let's go. If they're smart. There's a lot of dumbasses out there. So you get the Bank of America, you hit SoFi. Now you're going to U.S. Bank, and then you go to Bread. Bread is another one. Then you're going to go to X1, Region, and then now you're just doing the same thing, though. You apply to two credit cards, you call and remove the inquiries. And you apply to 2 more credit cards, you call and remove the inquiries. And you keep going, okay? Now, once you start to get past really SoFi, round 5, yeah, it's kind of hit or miss, okay? There's certain banks that work in certain states that you're going to go for. Navy Federal is a great one if you have a relationship with them. PenFed's a great one. PNC is a great one. But you're going to just keep going down. And then finally, once you get down to round 10, you're really just looking for credit unions, okay? It's again, big commercial banks. You get all the best credit cards you can. Then we go to those online banks like SoFi and a couple other ones that nobody's heard about. Then we're going to look in your local area for local credit unions, local PNCs, local key banks, local things like that, TD Ameritrade, blah, blah, blah. And then finally, you always want to apply for Capital One at the very end. There's a couple other ones that you want to apply for at the very end, but Capital One specifically, because when you apply to a Capital One credit card, it's gonna leave an inquiry on all 3 credit reports. Okay, that means that if you get another one on Equifax, you cannot remove it within 24 hours like you can with the other 2 bureaus. You're stuck with it, and now you're screwed out of maybe getting a bigger credit card, because Capital One, they don't give very big credit cards. You rarely will get more than a $10,000 credit card with Capital One. Now we go into business. So we just did all personal credit, all personal loans. Now we're going to do business. Now, why do we do business at the end? Well, because business doesn't really care, doesn't really have inquiries if you did it right. Okay, now a lot of these are going to do a soft pull or leave maybe an inquiry on your personal credit, but you can remove them without it affecting the funding at all. Okay, so you can do this basically, and then you get all these business credit cards: Capital on Tap, Divvy, US Platinum, M&T, G, blah blah blah. You have all the links here, and we tell you if they need a code or if they don't need a code, if they need an email, whatever they need. Now these are getting a lot more intense. Like sometimes when you apply for a loan, they'll want you to hold up a picture of your driver's license and take a picture with it, or they'll like make you do this like face scanning thing. Very strange, but that's just the way of the world. Okay, and then we're gonna go to credit unions. So really this is like the main funding, right? So we do all the main funding, then we hit the business, and then we go to credit unions. And we're just gonna hit the credit unions extra hard because we want to leave no money on the table. All right, credit unions want to work with you because they're not as big as the big banks, right? So that means that when you work with the credit union, you matter more than these big banks. You matter more to them. So they'll give you the bag. They've got great rates sometimes they don't, but sometimes you can build a relationship with them and you can do more. And then, yeah, we have specific ones per bureau and you just run the play. And that's master funding. And then like when it comes to loans are getting harder and harder to just do with like, I mean, for most people, when they give you a loan, they want like all your bank statements, your driver's license. Sometimes they want like taxes. Usually I try and avoid those ones, but sometimes they do like an SBA loan. You got to do like 3 years of taxes. You got to show that you're making an income. Okay, but there's a lot of loans that you can get, and you just pile up the loans and your bank account will be flush with cash. Now, lines of credit are beautiful. You typically can only get a line of credit if you own a house, or that's what a HELOC is, or if you own a business that's making a lot of money. Now, lines of credit are great. You can get really big lines of credit from like Discover and Bank of America, and we can get those for you, but not everybody's going to get a line of credit. It's not like something, unless you have like perfect credit and you make a lot of money in your business, then we can get them all day, but you got to qualify, and qualifying for lines of credit is harder than just regular credit cards. HELOCs are if you own a house. If you own a house, hit me up. All right, I can get you a stupid amount of money. I can get you multiple HELOCs for the same property. Absolutely bananas. Car loans. We can actually get you car loans for your business if you build your credit up correctly. That means you could get a business, you can get a car for your business. Now, when you do car loans for your business, the truth is the interest rates are going to be higher because the banks are going to be funding it to a business, and businesses make money. So that's why the banks like to do it. But you could get a car in your business's name and not have to have it affect your personal credit, which is totally crazy. And then you could use it for business activities. And you can do this once you get about 15 lines of credit reporting to your business credit, and they won't even look at your personal credit for most cases. You do have to be making money, right? You have to have a way to afford the car, but very, very cool that you can get cars in your businesses. Now you have the money. Now it's time to leverage the funding. And I'm going to do probably some other videos on how to leverage, but it's all about leverage now, baby. You got the money. You know how to get the money. You've got the secret sauce. You can get clients money. Now you need to use the money properly to make a profit and change your life forever. That was awesome. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you appreciate it. A couple things that I forgot to mention. Whenever you're doing this for a client, so this is just for the funding company, loan broker section of this, you're going to want to have to get a VPN. We use ExpressVPN. I'll have a link for that down below. But if you're going to apply for a client that lives in California and you're doing it from your home computer, the banks are automatically going to reject it if your IP address is in Canada or like New Mexico or something, right? So you have to have a VPN whenever you apply. The other thing is I recommend you apply in the evenings when it's just an automated system. There's certain banks, especially Amex, Navy Federal, a couple other ones, that if you apply to them at night, it's not some person who's underwriting it. It's a robotic system, so you have a much higher likelihood of getting approved. That being said, we used to go crazy on this and like only have like funding parties at night when we would be like super tired funding for people, and then we ended up getting so busy like it didn't matter. And the other thing that's kind of cool though is like if you really get this dialed in, is you apply to your first applications at like 6 in the morning. As soon as the bureau's open at like 8 or 9, you call them, you remove the inquiries. The inquiry will be off by like 12 or 2, and now you can apply to 2 more. So you can speed up the funding process to do it even faster. That's a real tip. Okay, and then this is insider knowledge. I probably shouldn't even be telling you. If you get a proof of income form and you make it up and you say that your business pays you from this, and you own a house or you own a vehicle, you can essentially get multiple loans or multiple HELOCs on those items. A little gray zone area, but it's a way to get a ridiculous amount of money. So let's say you own a car. Car's worth like $40,000. Okay, you can use the car as collateral, and you can apply to multiple loans at the same time for the same car, and just remove the inquiries. And you get one, you get the money, so it's a loan. So you get the money. They're not going to take the money back. You remove the inquiry, and then you do it again and again and again. And all they ask individually is a picture of your title and your registration and pictures of the car. They don't actually ever want the title to the car. Same thing with the HELOC. If you have a house, you can show that the income, or you can use the house as collateral, and you can use this and you can get multiple lines of credit on the house, and you remove the inquiry. Now, if they ever figure it out, they might have to call the bill owed and you'll have to pay. But with HELOCs, it's a line of credit, so you'll only have to pay back whatever money you use, but you can get multiple ones. Okay, this is crazy. All right, you're welcome. I just made you a millionaire. But basically, this is the sauce. This is how you run a funding company. This is how you can make an insane amount of money. All right, you're welcome. I think this is worth it. Let's make some money.